So, here's the big question that a lot of people in the crypto community are asking right now. Can Pi hit $1 again by the end of September 2025? At the moment, Pi is trading around 44 cents, sitting at about $0.4472 after it touched a short-term high of $0.4944 earlier in the day. It's been showing some positive signs recently, and the charts definitely give us some interesting clues. But the community itself seems pretty divided. Some are convinced that $1 is within reach, while others are more cautious and believe the climb is too steep in the short term. If we take a look at what's happening on the charts, the first thing that stands out is the movement around support and resistance. Not long ago, 42 cents was acting as a strong barrier, but now that level has flipped into support. That's a good sign because it means the market has been able to push past it and hold steady. The next major resistance is sitting just under 50 cents, and that's the barrier everyone's watching closely. Breaking through that level is going to be essential if Pi has any hope of making a big move upward. At the same time, we can't ignore the support sitting lower around $0.3334, which is where traders expect buyers to step back in if things start to slide. When you zoom in, the chart is showing a blend of both optimism and caution. The rise to $0.4944 was exciting, but the red candle that followed hinted at a possible short-term correction. That kind of back and forth is normal in crypto, and what usually happens before the next big move is a period of convergence. Right now, moving averages are tightening together. If you've been following technical analysis for a while, you'll know that this kind of convergence often comes just before either a breakout or a consolidation phase. Basically, the market is winding up energy, and soon it's going to decide whether to release it upward or flatten out for a while. So the million-dollar question is, can Pi really double from here and reach that $1 milestone within the next 27 days? On paper, that would require a 123% rally from the current level. That's definitely a big ask, but it's not impossible in the world of altcoins, where huge swings can happen seemingly overnight. History has shown us that Pi, like many other speculative tokens, can move very quickly when hype builds up. But whether that hype can sustain itself is another story. To really understand where Pi stands, we need to take a step back and talk about the project itself. Pi Network was launched in 2019 by a group of Stanford graduates who wanted to make cryptocurrency more accessible. Unlike Bitcoin, which requires expensive and energy-hungry mining rigs, Pi can be mined directly from a mobile phone app. This idea caught on quickly because it lowered the barrier to entry and encouraged mass adoption. Over the years, Pi has grown to boast more than 50 million users worldwide, which is a huge number. When you think about how young the project still is. But here's where things get complicated. Even though Pi has this massive community, the token is still stuck in an early stage of development. It's not fully listed across major centralized exchanges, and that means its price is heavily influenced by speculation rather than solid trading volume. This lack of liquidity makes Pi extremely volatile, which can lead to both incredible rallies and painful corrections. For example, Pi has crossed the $1 mark before, particularly during hype cycles back in 2022 and 2023. But every time it surged, it quickly corrected downward because there wasn't enough fundamental strength to support those prices. Right now, with the token hovering between 44 and 49 cents, that uncertainty is still very present. On social media, especially on platforms like X, formerly Twitter, posts about Pi's potential tend to spread quickly. The post that sparked this discussion asked followers whether they believe Pi can hit $1 by the end of September. It even encouraged people to like and repost as a way of gauging community sentiment. This is actually a pretty common tactic in the crypto space, using engagement as a way to measure optimism. In the early hours, the response to that particular post wasn't overwhelming, but these things can pick up quickly if traders decide the narrative is worth jumping on. After all, in crypto, sentiment can move markets just as much as charts and data can. When you break down the arguments from both sides, you start to see why the community is split. On the bullish side, Pi supporters believe that upcoming announcements could change everything. For instance, any news about the full mainnet release, new exchange listings, or partnerships could act as a major catalyst. If trading volume picks up during a generally bullish period in September, then Pi might ride that wave higher. There's also the possibility of more users adopting the app and building out the ecosystem, which would naturally strengthen the case for higher prices. On the flip side, skeptics argue that there's simply not enough happening under the hood to justify such a dramatic rally. They point out the lack of liquidity, the absence of transparent audits, and the fact that so much of Pi's value is driven purely by hype. Without concrete developments, they argue, even a breakout past 50 cents could fizzle out quickly. This camp tends to be more cautious, aiming for conservative targets like 60 cents by the end of the year rather than a doubling in price within a single month. So where does that leave us? If we're being realistic, the odds of Pi reaching $1 by the end of September aren't impossible, but they are stacked against it without some kind of external boost. Passing the 50-cent resistance is the first challenge, and that alone won't guarantee a push higher unless it's backed by real momentum. To get to $1, Pi would likely need a big piece of news, such as a major exchange listing, the official rollout of its ecosystem, or a partnership that sparks new demand. Without those catalysts, the market may simply not have enough fuel to power that kind of move in such a short time frame. Longer term, though, the story could be very different. Because Pi is still in such an early phase, its future depends heavily on how the team develops the project and how the community continues to engage with it. If Pi manages to transition smoothly into its full mainnet, gain listings on major exchanges, and build out real-world use cases, then $1 could be just the beginning. On the other hand, if the project continues to rely on speculation without delivering on its promises, the token might struggle to find stability. So, as we head into the last stretch of September, all eyes are on Pi. Will it surprise the skeptics and break out toward that $1 milestone, or will it stall out under the weight of resistance and limited liquidity? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, the community will be watching closely, and the debates will continue.